Greetings, Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Steve Oppenheimer. I met Steve, about a year and a half ago, 2 years?
Probably over 2 years ago.
Yeah, at an exercise group out in the park during COVID. It was kind of fun. Anyway, say hi to my peeps.
Hey, everyone. Steve Oppenheimer here.
Is it Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer? I asked you before. You got to decide here. Okay, okay. We talked before, and I'm seeing a little pattern here. So let's start with a couple things. One, tell me all the things you've done work-wise. Just name them. Don't go into details. Just name.
Oh my God! I've been a bartender at a gay bar.
Okay.
I've worked at a coffee shop. I have been a executive director of a hospice. I've been a regional sales manager for AT&T Global Networks. I've been a CEO of Del Amo Hospital, which was a large hospital in LA. Right now, I'm a private practice marriage and family therapist here in Palm Springs. So I've just done a
couple of things,
A few things.
And tell me the cities you've lived in.
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area.
No details. Just name all the cities.
Oh, San Francisco. Oh, can I cuss on this?
Yeah, but not for the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because of YouTube.
Oh, you're on YouTube.
They watch that stuff.
So I lived in San Francisco, LA, New York. I lived in Paris for a while. I lived in Buenos Aires. And I've been in Palm Springs the longest. It's been about 20 years here.
Okay, so now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So before we started, I asked you how to pronounce your name, whether it was O or Op. You told me O. Then I used O, and then you just said Op. Then you've had all these jobs.
Yeah.
Now you've got all these cities.
Uh-huh.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
What's the pattern you're seeing?
When are you going to decide what you want to do and who you are and what you're going to be when you grow up? Come on.
Oh, Wilkinson, that is actually the best question I've ever heard, because I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, I turned 56 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I still am trying to figure out who I am and what my purpose and meaning in life is. And, I'm having a good time. I'm living in a lot of positive energy and really happy. Right. But I think that life is a journey for me. And every time I think I know what I'm supposed to do or who I'm supposed to be, I change.
Don't you think the idea, because when I grew up, it was like you pick up a path, a job, you go there, you retire, 2 weeks later, don't know what to do and you die.
Totally.
Yeah. But so it is a journey, and it's a series of things, right? So you've had a series of jobs, you had a series of places you've lived. I'm not going to accept the series on your name, though. How do you want me to say? Is it Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer. Steve Oppenheimer.
You came
marriage and family therapist,
and you lied to me. You're
I didn't lie to you. Both we all, you ask my mom, she goes Oppenheimer, she goes Oppenheimer. I do the same. It's just,
Okay, I'll bounce back since you bounce around to everything.
I bounce around to everything, and that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's cool. So, where'd you grow up?
I grew up. Do you want details now?
Yeah.
The suburbs of San Francisco in a town called Foster City. So it's right by San Francisco Airport.
Huh. And you figured out at some point you were gay, because you mentioned you were gay earlier.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was when I first started. I came out probably my freshman year. I realized I was gay.
Of high school.
And then it was. This is San Francisco, the Bay Area. You'd think it would be a pretty liberal place, but it was a pretty isolating time. This was back in the early 80s, during the start of the AIDS crisis. Well, I was a suicidal teenager. You hear the statistics, and I tried to commit suicide, and that's...
You did?
Well, yeah, it was probably more a call for help.
Right.
Cry for help. But, it was enough for my parents to take notice, and they got me to see a therapist. When I was 15, I saw a therapist. I saw a gay therapist. And
did they choose the therapist, or did you?
I think the insurance chose the therapist.
And it happened to be a gay guy?
It happened to be a gay guy.
Wow, the universe comes through again?
The universe came through. Yeah. And it just helped, because
was he cute?
He was really cute. This is back there. This is back in the early 80s. So, in San Francisco. So he was a Castro clone. And
oh, wait, so the mustache?
He had that mustache. So, I'm sure if I'd seen him out on the Castro, he would have had a white T-shirt and jeans on, and I would have been in love.
So he didn't wear leather to the sessions?
He didn't wear leather to the sessions, no, but he was a good guy. And, I was this young 16-year-old kid, and he taught me, how to look at life as a gay guy. and what to to be careful. Especially this was the start of the AIDS crisis, and he taught me about safe sex. I mean, I was afraid to have sex for years, even through college, and into when I moved into New York after college. Sex was a scary thing. This was the late '80s, early '90s, but that therapist, he really kind of helped me.
So he started with a premise that it's okay to be gay.
It's okay to be gay.
Thank God you didn't get a religious one.
Could you imagine
sending you to the camp?
I don't think that would have worked, electric shock therapy or whatever.
So did you interact with your parents as you went through the process with the therapist at all, or was it just like going? Did they hope that you would not be gay when?
I don't think my parents knew I was gay. I mean, like, this was before I even came out to them.
Okay, so
they just knew I was. They knew I was a depressed kid.
Okay, so for depression, you went there.
Yeah, I went there for depression because there was, I think when people have anxiety or depression, it's really a symptom of some other issue going on in our lives. So for me, what was going on in my life was, I knew I was different. I was a young kid. I knew I liked boys, but it wasn't acceptable.
Right.
And it was scary. So that was what led to the depression and the anxiety that I had. And that's what led my parents to getting me to, for me to attempt suicide, and then for my parents to realize that they had a problem. I had a problem, and they got me help.
So you mentioned you knew you were different. How old were you when you first discovered that?
Probably 12, 13 years old.
Okay, so just a few years before.
Yeah, preteen. You started looking at boys on
shows.
Yeah, started looking at the boys on TV, going, Steve Austin. Lee Majors, I had the biggest crush on, man.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not Farrah.
Not Farrah.
Not Farrah Fawcett, but for sure Steve Austin.
Okay, so did you go from San Fran to New York City?
Well,
or was there a detour?
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, and then I did my undergraduate in Tucson at the University of Arizona.
Okay.
And then I spent 3 years there. Then I spent a junior year in Paris. Did you just roll your eyes at me?
No, I was jealous.
No, but the funniest
that
thing
was a green eye roll.
But the coolest thing about that was when I was in Paris, you had to claim a major for the year. So I was a political science major at U of A, but for the year in Paris, I became an art major. So I was an art student, because when you were an art student when you had on your student ID card, art student, you get to all the museums for free.
Oh, cool.
So I was in the Louvre every day, at the Picasso Museum every day. It was the most amazing experience.
So you had an ulterior motive.
Oh, totally. And like my French really sucks. So and all my classes were in French, but I still did pretty good in school.
Did you wear one of those hat things?
I did have a beret. I went back for my senior year in college with that beret, and I was like such a poser in Tucson walking around.
You just got back from Paris.
I got back from Paris, and here I'm in the desert.
Wow.
In Tucson.
Wow.
And then after I went to school in Arizona, that's when I would move to New York. So I graduated from school in '89, moved to New York City, got a job at an advertising agency, was there for about 4 or 5 years, met my first lover, and then we moved to San Francisco, back home. He got a job.
How long were you in New York?
About 5 years.
That's a great experience, though.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to be there.
Living in New York in your 20s is amazing.
Yeah.
We were there last year, Michael and I, my husband, we were there last year, and I was just like, I don't know if I could live here anymore. It's too crowded. Being in Palm Springs for 20 years, I like space.
Right.
I like quiet, but it's definitely, when you're a young man in New York City, the best place in the world.
You're filling out my green card. Green with envy. First Paris, then New York when you're young. This is not fair.
And then from New York, I moved back to San Francisco, like I said, and then me and the first lover, we split.
Of course.
Then I met a second lover. He was in LA. We would back and forth for 2 years, long distance relationship. And then I wanted to move into LA. And then I transferred. I was with AT&T at the time. So I transferred with AT&T.
You broke up.
No, we actually moved to Palm Springs.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, this is my story of how I got to Palm Springs, because this was about 20 years ago. And he was 15 years older than me. He was looking for a quieter life. We had friends here in the desert. This was around 2000. We moved to Palm Springs. We split up a year later.
You did?
Yeah, we did. But he got me here, and we're still friends. And he's still here, and it's really, I run into him once in a while. It's a nice thing. And then so I've been here for 20 years, and I met my husband Michael here at Hunter's. I know. I actually met somebody here. Wow. And we've been together for 17 years. We just had our 17th anniversary in March.
So you just met there?
We met at Hunter's. A friend of ours introduced us.
I was going to say who made the first move, but it was an intro.
It was an intro, but it was love at first sight. The minute I saw him, he had this cute blue and red shirt on, and he has two color eyes. He has a blue eye and a brown eye, and I looked at his eyes.
Does he really?
Yeah, right blue,
I didn't know that.
Right blue, left brown, and I fell in love the minute I saw him.
Wow.
And, I am today, too. I'm still in love today.
Does the blue and the brown indicate his two personalities?
Oh, totally. Well, have you ever seen the that picture of the dogs that play poker? The poker playing dogs?
Right.
And there's that one dog with the two colored eyes. Crazy dog. It's my husband.
So he's crazy.
In a good way. In a good way.
Okay. What do you like about him?
He's got the biggest heart. He would take the shirt off his back, and I've seen him do it. It drives me crazy sometimes, but I've seen him take the shirt off his back and give it to somebody.
Wow.
Like a homeless person or something. Or
well,
he's just a caring man.
All right, let's switch over to your careers.
Okay.
Ta-da. AT&T. Is there anything I can go into? It sounds boring. I don't know.
Well, okay, so AT&T was a cool job for me in that I was the regional, I was the globe, I had a few jobs with them. We were selling data hosting. I was the regional sales manager for data hosting services. It's kind of boring, but it was pre-internet. So basically what I guess I could say about AT&T was that I worked there in the mid-90s before like the internet took off. And I remember we first started selling dial-up services to businesses.
Right.
And I remember doing these chat lines, and then we would do these brown bags for AT&T salespeople because nobody knew about the internet. It was still brand new. So we did this brown bag luncheon thing. And I remember doing a chat line and then talking to some like young kid in front of all these business people. It was kind of funny.
Wow.
Kind of boring, but funny. You could edit the part out.
No, I won't. Which of all your jobs, what do you like the best?
There's a couple jobs that stand out. When I was in New York, in this advertising agency, I had this job where I would put together trade shows for an Australian food company. And I would go all over North America, all over Mexico and Canada and the U.S. and do trade shows. And I did this for about a year and a half. And it was the funnest job because you'd stay at really nice hotels,
right,
put together trade show, this exhibit, meet all kinds of people, and promote this product. And that was a really fun job, especially for a young man in his 20s.
Right.
Expense account.
Definitely.
I got to tell you, I really love what I do now more than anything because I connect with people. Because I think throughout my career,
right,
the common theme for me has always been about the connection. I mean, I've had jobs where I've been an individual contributor. I've had jobs when I've been the boss.
Right.
And being the boss is kind of a tough job to be in because I firmly believe that we can't control what other people think, feel, or do. And when you're the boss and you've got your target, what especially when you're working for a company, you got your goals you got to meet. And I find it difficult when you're working with people that don't really share the same kind of values that
right,
you do.
Right.
So that was kind of tough. But working in what I do, it's I find that I've been able to create a life for myself that professionally that really works for me. I take care. I see 6 people a day.
Well,
I work with them in their individual problems. I care about them, and I'm able to help them to see maybe some alternative solutions to their problems, and then they go and live their lives. And I see them a week later, and they tell me the progress that they've made. But it's not hopefully. But the difference I find from my other jobs is that it's not my problem. I'm here to listen and to be objective and to be caring and to help think of solutions, but it's not, your problems are not my problems, which probably helps me to help you think about alternative ways to deal with them. Whereas when I was working for a corporation, I took on everyone's problems because everyone's problems were a barrier to getting the result done that I needed to get done to get my job done. And that's the stress I don't want to take on anymore. And that's the stress I was happy to give up. Does that make sense?
It does. And so what you're doing now, you don't have that end goal hanging over you all the time. Like the corporate thing.
I don't have I don't have the end of the year goal hanging up. I mean, I have goals,
Right.
I have goals of, making a certain amount of income every year, of, of being able to see progress with my clients, seeing that they're having positive results. But I don't have that same kind of a goal, like I have to make this much profit for the corporate bottom line,
Right.
and actually that's kind of what brought me out into private practice in the first place. Because, back during COVID, it was 2020. I was the regional operations director for a large behavioral health organization. I had about 550 employees, all reporting, to underneath me, or to different managers. There were about 7 different facilities, 3 different states. And I was responsible for all this during COVID. And I remember having to open up facilities, hospitals, and being around, people. None of us knew what we were doing because it was so scary. This was April and May of 2020.
Right.
There was this pandemic going on, and we all were worried that we were going to be bringing this disease home to our families. And I didn't really feel like I had the support from my superiors. And so I'm the one with his neck on the line. So I'm creating all this value for somebody else, for the corporation. Right. But meanwhile, I'm at risk, and I'm putting my family at risk. So it was December 7th, 2020, and I gave my 1-month notice. It was one of the best days of my life. I read that notice to my boss. He was a dick. Right. Oh, can I say that?
Yeah, it's.
And then January 6th, I opened up my own practice, and I started doing virtual. I was online for the first 6 months, and then in August of 2021, I opened up my own private practice, my own office, right by Desert Regional Hospital. It's a small little office. Love it. And it's just a great life. It's an easy life. It's a fulfilling life.
So when you're with these 6 people, say 2 out of the 6 have really heavy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go home and have dinner and shed that?
That's a good question. Well, there's a few things that I do for self-care. The things that I do for myself is I make sure that I am in good mental and physical health. So I work out every day, and I meditate, and I journal. And I also see my own therapist.
Oh.
So all of those things are things that I do to help keep myself balanced.
Right.
So when I'm seeing clients that are having really hard times, and I take on that energy, because that's part of my job, is to take on the energy and to join with the person I'm helping. And yet it's not my problem. And that's, again, I think where the benefit of seeing maybe a therapist can help, because I can come at it objectively, and I can feel your pain. I can cry with you.
Right.
And when you're gone, I'm going to write my notes so that I make sure that I know where we're at. And then when you come back next week, we can take up where we left off. But I'm not going to take the problem home with me. I'm able to leave it at my office. And again, that's the first time in my professional career that I've been able to do this. And I think that kind of makes me effective. And that I don't take on other people's problems.
Right.
Hey, I have enough problems of my own that I don't need to take on other people.
You're not all fixed?
Oh God, no. No, I'm it's wild, because I think I got down on myself when I first started my private practice, in that I've been having, doing my own issues, my own issues of transformation, leaving the security of a corporate job to being a sole practitioner. It ain't easy. It's very rewarding, but there's been a lot of anxiety and stress with it. And then I think, because I also shared with you that my husband's been sick for the past year. So I've been a caregiver and dealing, and helping him survive and move through, his illness. So yeah, this has been a really tough year. So the fact that I don't take on my clients' problems and take them home with me, it's because when I get home, I have my own problems I'm dealing with, and trying to navigate through them as best as I can, which I think we all can do. Well, you can only do the best you can do.
So there's a lot of gay guys in Palm Springs. What percentage of your clients are gay, do you think?
I don't know, probably about 75% of my clients are gay men. I've got gay men individuals that come in. I've got gay couples, a lot of gay couples, a lot of heterosexuals, A lot of people come into my office when they're feeling stuck in their jobs or in their relationships or with life. One of the biggest areas I'm seeing is a lot of older, I don't want to say older, a lot of gay men in their late 60s and 70s are coming into my practice now. And
Why is that?
I think just because we're living longer and living in Palm Springs especially, and trying to figure out purpose and meaning. There's more what to do with life. Palm Springs can be a very quiet place at times. And I think that some people kind of get lost with how to occupy your time, how to stay involved. One of the things that I find with a lot of clients that come into my practice is feeling some isolation and loneliness. And one of the things I tell people is get involved, join a club, find an organization, find something with people with similar interests to you, so that you don't feel as alone and isolated. It's fair, and there's so many clubs and organizations and things to do in this desert. You just have to look for them,
right?
Because it's not easy to find. You have to dig for them.
Yeah, when I moved here, six and a half years ago, I was very intentional on joining and meeting people.
Yeah, do you still get involved?
Yeah. Too much.
Yeah, I gotta tell you.
I told you I just started an acting class.
That's right, you did. You did your monologue.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I find that for myself, I'm not as involved today as I was 10 years ago. And that's probably the area that I need to develop in myself a little bit more, is to get more involved. And so that's my next project is getting more involved in the community again. It waned. It waned during COVID.
Well, there's an ebb and flow.
Yeah. Everything ebbs and flows.
Well, you had a lot of balls starting a business at the beginning of COVID. Come on.
Yeah, it's true. And to be honest, the business is going great. I mean, this is the best decision I could have ever made for myself. Wow. It was scary as hell that when I gave my my 1 month notice to my boss, Michael, my husband, was like, "Are you sure?" He was really concerned. I was just like, I was at my wit's end. It kind of ties into what you started talking to me about just. I just do a lot. I've gone through a lot of things in my life, and maybe it's a shortest attention span. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an Aries, but I like change, and I think change can be good. It can be scary. Right. Change can be really scary, but I think ultimately you got to change and you got to adapt and you got to move, or you just stay stagnant. And I don't want that for myself.
You mentioned in our pre-chat that you had spoken at a women's group about positive thinking.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Well, so the Palm Springs Women's Group asked me to speak. It was actually the second time they asked me back, so I guess they liked me the first time. Okay. And I gave a presentation on the power of positive thinking, and it was really it was a great experience. I mean, it was there's 2 rules that I live by in my life. Rule number 1 is that you got to put on your own oxygen mask on first before you help anyone else. It's kind of like what they tell you on the airplane,
right?
In security, when that mask falls down, you put it on before you help the person next to you. And why is that? Because you can't help anyone if you're not breathing.
Right.
Rule number 2 is that positivity attracts positivity. And this flows through my practice as well. This theme, in that we live in a world of positive and negative energy. You look at a battery.
Right.
A AAA battery's got a plus and a minus. You need both to make things move. Movement requires positive and negative energy. I think the key is to focus in on, to acknowledge if things are going wrong, if things are shitty, acknowledge it.
Right.
That things are bad, acknowledge, hey, things are not good, but also focus in on what is working, what is good. And if you stay focused in on the positives, then all of a sudden it starts to grow. And we see more and more positives, and the negatives become less and less important. They're still there. You're still living with them. But it gives you an opportunity to see life a little bit better and to feel better about yourself and about the world that you're existing in.
Why is it that we gravitate toward negativity? Why do we do that?
I think we gravitate towards negativity because of how we grow up.
Okay.
It's automatic thoughts. We grow up as children and as in our adolescence, we're constantly giving messages
and told no.
Told no.
Yeah.
I remember the story of of a little child wanting to get a 5-year-old kid wanting at a fair wanting to get an ice cream cone and asking their parent, hey, can I have an ice cream cone? And the parent saying no. Or just in that very moment, there's a negative message being relayed. Now, maybe that's not going to carry on for the rest of your life, but if you multiply that times years of a childhood, all of a sudden you start to look for worst case scenarios. And I think we gravitate, and a lot of times, especially when we're faced with challenges, to gravitate towards that worst case scenario. And a lot of times what I ask my clients is, okay, well, this is the worst case scenario. Well, what's the best case scenario? And if you can think about what the best case scenario is going to be, well, then you can even say to yourself, well, maybe the reality is going to be something in the middle.
Right.
It's not going to be as bad. Whatever I'm fearing won't be as bad as I think it's going to be. That anticipatory anxiety. What I'm fearing isn't going to be as bad as I think it's going to be. So just jump in and try it.
Well, we always come up with a worst case scenario and we fear the future. And there's really no need because it's not here yet. Or we're comparing it to the past.
No.
Yeah.
And here's
living in the present is tough.
Yeah, because here's the deal. You can't change the past. What happened in the past is it's fixed. You can't change it. You can learn to forgive yourself if there's things that you've done in the past that wish you hadn't. Learn to forgive yourself, but you can't change it. The future is being decided by the moment right now. What you and me talking right now is impacting our future. And that's kind of how I look at life.
Scary.
Totally scary. Dun, dun, dun.
Do you have any regrets in life?
I wish I was taller. No, actually I'm fine. I see tall guys, I'm like, God, how do you get on an airplane?
Well, that's why God invented shoes with big heels.
I'm wearing tennis shoes. No, actually, to be honest, I don't have any regrets.
Okay.
I don't. I've had a really good life so far. And it's like, it's like, as we were talking about earlier, it's like, I think of life as this journey, as like a river. And, you think the river goes goes calm. The river goes calmly, and we're on this calm river.
Right.
Until the shit hits the fan, and then we find ourselves in choppy waters, and then we get into the rapids, and then it gets really bad rapids, and then eventually you get through the rapids, and it gets calm again.
Or you go over the falls.
Well, the falls but the falls might be farther down on the river. You might have to go through a few rapids and choppiness until you hit that falls.
Right.
And I think about that as my life. I mean, I think life in general, but when I think about myself,
right,
I think, God, I've had some really good, calm, great times. I've had some really choppy times. I've had some horrible rapids.
Right.
But I've survived through all of them. And, I'm just waiting for the next. I wouldn't say I'm out of the rapids now. I'm probably in the midst of the rapids as we speak. But I see the calmness ahead of me. And I'm looking forward to that. And I also know that it's all temporary. Everything isn't permanent.
Right.
Everything isn't permanent. Good, the bad, you need it all. Life ebbs and flows.
You stole my next line.
Sorry.
So what are you looking forward to?
Besides for the interview being over?
No. Oh, really? Is it that bad?
No, this is
I'll have
fine.
to smack you.
No, it's just, I've never done a podcast before. This is
fun.
This is kind of fun, actually. I mean, speaking to this microphone is cool. What was the question?
What's coming down the pike for you? What are you looking forward to?
I guess what I'm looking forward to is, as my husband starts to feel better, we've got some trips planned. So starting, it's been a year since he first got sick, and now he's going back to work, and he's starting to feel better. So we got a couple of trips planned, and that's something I'm looking forward to. To be honest, right now, I'm just kind of looking forward to having some calmness in my life, because the past year, I don't know. Look, I've driven down to San Diego. I can't tell you how many times, because that's where he was getting cancer treatments, and I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm physically exhausted.
Wow.
Don't put that in there.
It's already in there.
Oh, you're gonna cut that one out. No, but it's like I told you, I think life, it's tough when a therapist is having his own crises, but that's life. And, even your first question is, I think that part of what I like about my job is it's allowed me to compartmentalize. And, compartmentalization, is a defense mechanism.
Right.
You talk to some, and the defense mechanisms aren't necessarily bad. I think they get a bad rap, denial, it's a defense mechanism. It's a bad rap. Yeah, but it helps us. All we develop habits to protect ourselves. And I think what happens is a lot of times the habits that we develop to protect ourselves over time become maladaptive. And that's when we want change. And that's when people come to see me to find change.
You've already said some things, but what are a couple major lessons you've learned in your life?
A couple major lessons.
Yeah.
Always be accountable to your word. And I think this was a lesson that I learned early in my professional career. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. You do it. You don't lie. You don't sugarcoat. You just, if you have to give somebody feedback, you want to be direct and honest and kind. I think those are some major lessons that I've learned. And I think the biggest lesson that I've learned, and I keep trying to practice for myself, is just not to beat myself up when I mess up, because I'm just human. And I think that's probably the biggest message that I give to my clients, but it's also the biggest message that I give to myself. And that just not to be so hard on myself. Sometimes I think when my internal voice is talking, and we all have a voice in our head, right? And when that voice in my head is beating myself up, if I can say, what would I say to a friend in the very same situation? Chances are it wouldn't be as negative as I'm being to myself. And I think that's probably one of the greatest learnings I've learned these past couple of years.
Good stuff. Thanks for coming in. That's it.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to share something else? I don't know. Is there some word you want to give to my peeps?
I guess I would say, Wilkinson, it's weird when I think about how you and I met, and it was at that exercise class, and
Right.
and it was a great way. That was at the start of COVID. I mean, that was like right when I had just quit my job,
Wow.
and I was just starting my private practice.
Wow.
I just remember the positive energy in that class, and I just remember you were just the nicest, most positive guy, and when you I remember my knees started to act up on me, and you got that knee brace for me, and it was such a generous, kind, thoughtful gesture, and it just it made me feel really special, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I think
Thank you.
And I think that I think that there's so many opportunities for us just to practice kindness on a day-to-day basis, even the smallest gestures. And I think that when we practice kindness towards others, it's when that helps us feel better about ourselves and makes our own situation feel better.
We might have you back one of these days.
You think so?
Yeah. This has been fun.
Really? Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I feel like I've been all over the place.
Yeah. No, it took a while to get you in here, granted, but you came, and there's a delay with Michael and all that, so I get it. But thank you for coming, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, Wilkinson, thanks for having me, and you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.